Jeff Hafley isn't just hitting the ground running in Miami. He is absolutely sprinting, and if you blinked, you might have missed the first major shockwaves of his regime. We aren't looking at a slow rebuild or a cautious transition period. We are looking at a complete and total philosophical overhaul that is happening right now, this very second. The coaching staff is being built with a speed and aggression we haven't seen in years, and the names being linked to this team are going to change everything. Before we break down the coordinators, the quarterback controversy, and the massive culture shift, do me a huge favor. Smash that like button, share this with your fellow diehards, and make sure you are subscribed so you never miss a beat of this offseason. Listen, the energy coming out of Miami right now is infectious. After the introductory press conference on Thursday, most coaches would take a breath, maybe settle into their office, and start making calls next week. Not this guy. Jeff Hafley was immediately making the rounds on national media by Friday afternoon, laying down the law and giving us a crystal clear roadmap of what is about to go down. And here is the headline that should have every single fan sitting on the edge of their seat. There is a very strong probability, a massive chance, that by the time you are finishing your weekend on Sunday night, the Miami Dolphins will have their offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and special teams coordinator locked in. That is speed. That is decisiveness. That is a man who already knows exactly who he wants. When we convene again on Monday, we are likely going to be staring at the foundation of the entire future of this franchise. Let's get into the thick of it, because the offensive coordinator search is where the drama is really heating up. We have been hearing a laundry list of names over the last week, people connected to Hafley from his past stops, or guys who just make sense on paper. But you need to pay very close attention to the details here. There is a specific criteria that separates the contenders from the pretenders. If you look at the list of candidates, you have to put a massive asterisk next to the guys who have never actually called plays before. Why does that matter? Think about it. We have a first-time NFL head coach in Jeff Hafley who is defensive-minded. Do you really think it's smart to pair him with a rookie offensive coordinator who is learning on the job? Absolutely not. That is a recipe for disaster. That is why guys like Luke Getsy, Brian Dable, Cliff Kingsbury, and Bobby Slowik are in a completely different tier. These are guys who have felt the pressure of the headset. They have managed the clock. They have installed game plans. This brings us to the two heavyweights in this fight. It really feels like this is boiling down to a two-horse race between Bobby Slowik and Brian Angelichio. Now, there has been a lot of noise, a lot of smoke in the air suggesting that Angelichio is the preferred choice, the guy Hafley might be leaning toward personally. We've seen the reports. We've seen the social media chatter from major insiders at CBS Sports. But I am telling you right now, do not sleep on Bobby Slowik. In fact, if I had to place my bet, if I had to pick the guy who makes the absolute most sense for where this franchise is right now, it is Bobby Slowik. And it's not just because he is already in the building or familiar with the setup. It goes deeper than that. There are whispers from credible insiders that the shortlist includes Slowik, Todd Monken. Though let's be real, Monken feels like he's destined to follow John Harbaugh to the Giants, and maybe even a swing at Brian Dable if things go south for him in Buffalo. We've even heard Adam Stenavich, the Packers OC, mentioned. But Stenavich doesn't call plays in Green Bay because he's under Matt LaFleur. Sure, coming to Miami would be a promotion in terms of responsibility, allowing him to finally call the shots. But do we want to take that risk? I have Bobby Slowik as my number one option, and here is exactly why. When you have a defensive head coach, the offensive coordinator essentially becomes the head coach of the offense. You need someone who can operate autonomously. You need someone who understands the grind of the NFL season, the week-to-week adjustments, the installation of a game plan when injuries pile up. Slowik has that. But more importantly, and this is the key that nobody is talking about enough, Slowik knows this specific roster. We know the scheme is going to change. We know the Mike McDaniel era was unique, and whoever comes in is going to run something different. But the pieces remain. Malik Washington, Devon Achane, Jalen Wright, Jalen Waddle. These are electric playmakers. Slowik already knows what they can do. He knows their twitch, he knows their limitations, and he knows how to get the ball in their hands. That continuity, in the midst of a massive regime change, is invaluable. It makes the transition seamless rather than a complete demolition job. So, here is the question of the day, and I want you to sound off in the comments section because this is the biggest decision of the offseason. Who is your dream hire for offensive coordinator? Do you want the familiarity of Bobby Slowik? Do you want to take a swing at Adam Stenavich? Are you hoping for a wild card like Brian Dable or Brian Angelichio? Let me know the name you want to see announced on Sunday night. Now let's flip to the other side of the ball, because the defensive coordinator search is a much tighter, more intimate circle. And this makes perfect sense because Jeff Hafley has already dropped a bombshell. He is going to call the defensive plays himself. This is a change from his time at Boston College. But let's be honest, being an NFL head coach is different. You don't have to worry about recruiting trips, dorm rooms, or academic eligibility. You can focus on ball. Because Hafley is calling the plays, he doesn't need a mercenary. He doesn't need a big-name former head coach to come in and run the show. He needs a lieutenant. He needs someone he trusts with his life to install the game plan and handle the grunt work of weekly scouting. That is why the list is filled with guys he has been in the trenches with. We are looking at Sean Duggan, Tim Lukabu, DeMarcus Covington, and Vince Agabase. If I had to put money on it, the next defensive coordinator of the Miami Dolphins is going to be Sean Duggan. This guy is a rising star. He is only 32 years old, but look at the resume. He has been glued to Hafley's hip since 2019 at Ohio State, then Boston College, and then the last 2 years in Green Bay. He speaks Hafley's language. He knows exactly what the standard is. When you are the head coach and you are calling plays, you need your right-hand man to be an extension of your own brain. Duggan is that guy. Special teams is the wild card here. We know the unit was a mixed bag last year. Riley Patterson was an absolute hero filling in for Jason Sanders, and the punt unit was solid. But the return game, the kickoff coverage, it left a lot to be desired. It feels unlikely that the previous staff gets retained here. The only concrete lead we have right now is a report from Dallas media that Miami has requested to speak with Carlos Polk, the assistant special teams coach for the Cowboys. Is he the savior of the special teams unit? I can't sit here and lie to you and tell you he's a guru, but the fact that they are looking outside the organization tells you everything you need to know about their satisfaction with the current setup. But let's talk about the elephant in the room. Let's talk about the most important position in sports. The writing is on the wall, folks. Zach Wilson, gone. He won't be re-signed. Tua Tagovailoa. You have seen his last snap in a Miami Dolphins uniform. That era is over. So, where do we go from here? It really boils down to 3 paths: Quinn Ewers in the draft, a trade, or the free agent market. And there is one name that is flashing in neon lights right now: Malik Willis. This isn't just speculation. This is connecting the dots. Jeff Hafley knows him. Our new GM, John Eric Sullivan, knows him. They were all in Green Bay together. National insiders are already reporting that no regime in the entire NFL knows Malik Willis's strengths and weaknesses better than the brain trust we just assembled in Miami. The executives around the league are predicting he either lands in Cleveland or he comes right here to South Beach. And why wouldn't he? Did you see him play this year? In the 2 weeks he started for Green Bay against Chicago and Baltimore, he was phenomenal. I'm not using that word lightly. The film was electric. The advanced analytics backed it up. He looked like a legitimate starter in this league. The problem, as always, is the money. We all know Miami is entering a salary cap hell. We do not have the luxury of throwing money around. If Malik Willis wants a massive payday, like the 2-year, $45 million deal Justin Fields got from the Jets, then it's a hard pass. We cannot afford that. But if we can get him on a prove-it deal, something like 1 year for $10 million or $12 million, similar to what Sam Darnold or Daniel Jones took, then you have to pull the trigger. Think about the upside. It is literally a no-risk move. If you sign him for $12 million and he balls out like Darnold did, you have found your franchise quarterback and you extend him. He is still young. If he comes in and stinks it up, fine. You are picking in the top 10 next year in a draft class that is projected to be absolutely loaded with quarterback talent. It is a win-win situation. I honestly believe that if the price is right, Malik Willis is going to be your Week 1 starter. Speaking of the roster and staff, Hafley mentioned he wants to keep some of the current coaches. This is rare for a new regime, but it shows he is evaluating on merit, not just ego. I went through the staff list, and there are 5 names that I think are safe. We already talked about Bobby Slowik potentially staying as OC. But look at the offensive line. Butch Barry has done a tremendous job. He developed Patrick Paul into a monster. He has experience all over the league, and even though he doesn't have a direct tie to Hafley, his work speaks for itself. If Slowik stays, his brother Ryan Slowik, who has been excellent with the defensive backs, likely stays too. But the biggest lock, the guy I would be shocked to see leave, John Embry, the tight end coach. There is actual history there. Hafley and Embry have crossed paths. They have worked together, and Embry's resume with guys like George Kittle is unimpeachable. He might even get a title bump to assistant head coach. He is that valuable to the culture. And that leads me to my final point, and maybe the most important takeaway from everything we have heard in the last 48 hours. The culture is changing. We heard Hafley talk about accountability. We heard him talk about tougher practices. He explicitly said, "No excuses, show up on time, be prepared, and give 100% effort." You might be thinking, well, isn't that just standard football coach speak? No, it is a breath of fresh air. I don't want to keep throwing dirt on the grave of the Mike McDaniel era, but we have to be honest with ourselves. We documented the issues. We saw the reports over the last 3 or 4 seasons. Players showing up late to meetings, constant fines, lack of discipline. We are talking about star players, guys like Tyreek Hill, guys like Jalen Ramsey who are no longer here. It was a problem. It was a looseness that translated to the field in big moments. Mike McDaniel talked about it, but he couldn't fix it. I don't think that is going to fly for 1 second under Jeff Hafley. The days of the country club atmosphere are dead. This is going to be a disciplined, hard-nosed football team that respects the clock and respects the process. And boy, oh boy, do I absolutely love hearing that. We are in for a wild ride this weekend. If the news breaks on Sunday about the coordinators, you know we will have a breakdown immediately. This coverage never stops. Make sure you are locked in, hit that subscribe button, and let's get ready for a new era of Miami Dolphins football. I'll see you in the next one.